Yes, life is good. Hickok 45 here, your internet shooting companion, coming to you from the hills of Tennessee. Yes, the home of Alvin York, Davy Crockett, Ronnie Millsaps, and a lot of other people. Some good, some bad. Yes, just like where you live is my guess. So glad you're out here for another Sunday. Glad I'm out here. Glad we're all out here for another Sunday. Again, disclaimer, I'll get it at the beginning this time. This is a shoot and talk video, a little different than the other 2 or 3, 4 videos we post a week, depending, okay? That a lot of people miss and come back and say, wow, I haven't seen one of your videos for a while. They're not being suggested. Where'd you go? Where have you been? Right here for about 10, 12, 14 years, 2 or 3 videos every single week. So hope you'll join us. No telling what kind of brilliance some of you, not as many of you all, but no telling what kinds of brilliance a lot of viewers have missed. People who actually enjoy the channel. It's just amazing, and how everybody gets unsubscribed and have to resubscribe and click the bells and get out the Ouija board and everything just to make sure that they're not missing gun videos, because there seem to be some forces out there who don't like firearms too much. Do not go out of the way to use their powers to keep people subscribed to gun videos. Anyway, we're here wherever you are, and I'm glad that you specifically are here today. So welcome and appreciate the support, not just watching this video, but other videos, and coming around, commenting, and helping out people who don't know what they're doing, like me. No, people who obviously from their comments need help. Well, a lot of people on the internet need help, right? Psychological help. Yeah, some people behind the camera, some people in front of the camera, like me, and people who've never seen a camera. But there are a lot of new shooters out there. We forget sometimes the millions and millions of new gun owners, new shooters, and even people that have been to firearms for, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 years. Maybe they haven't really gotten out to shoot a lot and just have experience with 1 or 2 firearms. And it's a gigantic world, isn't it? Huge world. I don't know what's a good parallel analogy. Well, lots of them, I guess. Hobbies. Most hobbies involve more options and possibilities than you really know about till you get into it. But certainly in firearms, there are so many interesting firearms, historical, just recreational, futuristic, rifles, shotguns, handguns, small caliber, large caliber, hunting guns, competition guns, and all kinds of sports with shotguns, right? Skeet and trap, bird hunting, and just you name it, cowboy action shooting, all kinds of competition. Nobody can be an expert in all of them, and very few are an expert in any of them, including me. Just I'm a jack of all trades, as I always say, and about the only expertise I can admit to, and it's not really expertise, but is that I really enjoy firearms from almost every genre, any category that you can think of. Anything that you do with a firearm, I may not do it much like skeet shooting, but I find those shotguns really beautiful and fascinating. I have that Satori I don't use much. Go skeet shooting or sporting clay shooting, probably on average the last 30, 40 years, about once every 4 or 5 years, if that, you know. But it's neat. I enjoy it. Just I have too many firearms to get around to. So I don't know what else might you shoot. Even bench rest. I'm not a bench rest shooter. You know, shooting for tiny groups out at 500 yards. It doesn't really interest me, but I find it somewhat interesting. I mean, it's a gun. It's a bullet. You're putting them on paper or something out there far away and trying to get the most out of them. And, you know, the various calibers that people do that with, and the success that people have, what they discover, will group, make incredibly small groups at really long distances. I mean, it is interesting. It's not my favorite or my cup of tea necessarily, but I find it interesting. So so many areas, and there's probably an area that you would enjoy, don't you imagine? What I have today, I don't know. I don't know what these are. See if I can figure it out. That one's empty, so let's read what's on it. That's always a good place to start. Well, it says Smith & Wesson. I don't know who they are. Sounds like a law firm, maybe. It says .44 S&W. Maybe that stands for Smith & Wesson S&W. It says Special CTG. I have no idea what all that means, but it could mean 44 Smith & Wesson Special cartridge. You know. Yes, aren't I hilarious? It's 44 Special. This is the model 686, right? No, 696. 44 Special. Yeah, they didn't make this all that long. You've seen it before. We have a video or two on it, and it's a favorite. It's a clone of the 686. Okay, think of this as a 3-inch 686. As that's what it is. L-frame, Smith & Wesson, stainless, except it has bigger holes in the chamber, the cylinder. Has a bigger hole in the barrel. See that? So it's a 44 instead of a 357. And that's basically what you have here. And this is a no dash, so it's pretty cool. I've been partial to 44 Special for a long time. It and its partner, the 44 Magnum. And I thought I would bring it out. I also have another one out here, 44 Magnum, mainly to shoot specials in. This is a 4-inch in-frame, model 29, right? And this is a dash. What dash was this one? This is a dash 2, yeah, pinned and recessed. You've seen it, maybe not often enough. Pretty cool though, isn't it? And I've been actually shooting some specials in it, a few this week. I brought it out for that. As I have said, when you get even an in-frame, when you get them down to 3 inches or 2 inches, 1 inch, are there any of those? They become 44 Specials as far as I'm concerned, not 44 Magnum. When you have a 4-inch 44, and I think I had my stainless 4-inch out not too many weeks ago, didn't I? It's sort of borderline. Yeah, it's a nice compromise. You can shoot magnums in it without breaking your hand, although it stings a little bit. And it's very enjoyable to shoot 44 Specials in. So I've got these out because guess what I'm shooting? 44. So got the knife video up. I thought it'll change your pace. The last Bowie knife I would ever sell. Yeah. So some of you probably hadn't seen, I don't know, maybe any of those knives. I don't know, quite a few in there. We drag them out every now and then because they make beautiful table decorations, right? Should put them all on the table, the Thanksgiving table, right? Christmas, and my wife makes a big meal and has all the silverware, everything out nice. I should just sprinkle a few of those around. But they are some of my, they were my favorites, right? And I chose, hopefully you've seen that video, you've seen what my last Bowie knife would be. The one I would be carrying around if I turned into Grizzly Adams, had to leave all my other knives and everything somewhere. That's the one I would keep. Tough choice as usual, whether you're talking about, my gosh, 1911s or what else have we posted so far? AR-15, last AR-15 I would sell, last shotgun. I was done 4 or 5 of those in that series, and it at 357 Magnum. Some really, really difficult choices. Very, very, very difficult. And boy, just thinking through those, trying to think through it pretty much before we do the video, and kind of know where I'm going. But I tell you, on 2 or 3 of those, I thought I kind of knew, but I just wasn't sure until I really laid them out on the table, handled them, fondled all of them again, fired them maybe, and like, wow, you know, you really have to think about it. There's a lot of criteria there, you know, depending on whether you're a hunter, whether you want to have whether a shotgun, for example, is even something you use for self-defense, or you hunt with it or not, you know. So all those factors, you know, make a difference. So anyway, what I've got today though, 44 Special. I've been loading some 44 Special and hand loading, not loading 44 Special into my gun. Well, I've been doing that too, but first I've been hand loading some, and this week I finally got around to 44 Special, you know, in my reloading project I've been telling you about. And if you don't know this, I think it's a good idea, good practice. You're loading up some rounds, maybe quite a few, or even just a handful. It's good to have the firearm, a firearm you're going to be firing them in, and out there wherever you're reloading, and check them to make sure they chamber right, correctly, and even fire them. That's harder for some of you to do. You got to get to a range. Maybe you should just load up. I don't know, if you're pretty sure they're fine, they chamber, and you've loaded this load, you know, you did it a few years ago or something, maybe all that's precautions not as necessary, but yeah, be careful about loading too many. And get to a range and try them out. You know, try those rascals out. Make sure they not only chamber, but they fire fine. Yep, that's my old load. You know, my powder measure hadn't gotten weird on me or anything, and yeah, that's a load I like. Still like it. And, you know, just before you crank out a couple thousand. And then I would recommend every so often you do the same thing. Shoot some of those things, or test them. Just make sure you're being consistent. You don't want to load up 2,000 rounds of brass and then realize, oh no, that powder measure was not set right, you know, or something. Or you find out that your crimping die, your seating die, your crimping die loosened up on you or something. You didn't notice it. And this is something, if you don't hand load, you don't know what I'm talking about maybe. But this is one of my hand loads. And you know, your last step is to kind of crimp the top of that piece of brass, press it against the bullet, okay? And a lot of them have a crimping groove, of all things, so it's called a crimping groove. And so you want to seat it at the proper depth so that when you crimp it, the last step, it crimps it kind of into that groove. That is not even always necessary. It depends on the power of the bullet and all that, the amount of recoil. But it could jump the crimp, is my point. What if you loaded about 1,000 rounds and you realized, oh no, those bullets are moving on me well, obviously they better be moving very fast, right? But the ones you're not firing could be moving, right? Because you get the force. Think about it. If you're new to firearms, if I fire, well, that one's got a couple. If I fire this thing, the recoil jumps it back, right? Even if it's not that much recoil, it's still bouncing back at me, right? And so, boom, and you got this piece of lead hanging in the front. You got, you know, when you fire, you still have 5 or 6, 5, maybe 4 or 5, still in there, and so it's like you're trying to pull that lead. Keep hearing something over there. You're pulling lead. It's like you're trying to pull the case away from the bullet. I mean, that's the force. It's not going to happen usually, okay? You may have never seen that happen. I have seen it happen, especially with a hard kicking firearm. You fire like, in bam! I mean, is it centrifugal force? But it's backward force. And it leaves the bullet up here and the gun's back here. Anyway, it jumps the crimp, and before you know it, the bullet is protruding from the front of the chamber. And guess what? That's not good. It could be the one that's next up. And oh, there's that big deer, or there's that big grizzly bear. Me cock it and shoot him and save my life. Well, no, he won't cock. as blocking the rotation of the cylinder. That actually happened at a fairly famous bear attack. How long has that been? Yeah, maybe 10 years now. I don't know. It was in Alaska, I think. The guy had I think a chest holster and a 450 fork assault, or yeah, and a Ruger Alaskan, I think. I forget, and a short barrel. And I had one of those at one time. Whew, boy, when you touch one off of that dude, the firearm is not that heavy. Really, it was a short barrel, whatever it was, 4-inch, 3-inch, and he had some hot, bear loads in it, hard cast bullets of some kind. And a bear did. He was walking his dog, I think, and one came up behind him. He had to turn and shoot pretty quickly. It attacked, came after him. And he was shooting, and I think he missed it like the first couple of rounds, and then it was almost right on him, and the last round he fired hit it, and it did a nosedive, I believe. And he was going to shoot again, I think, is how that went, but one of his bullets jumped the crimp, and so the cylinder locked up. So if he had missed on that, whatever it was, fourth shot or third shot, he wasn't going to get another one. So it's something to be aware of. And of course, it's a hard kicking gun. Lots of that force I was talking about as your physics professor there a minute ago. And so anyway, that's one reason I wanted to fire some more of these today. Long way around the barn, huh? I just want to, and I have been firing them some, so I'm just going to shoot some of these before I load any more. Make sure none of them is jumping the crimp. Now, those first 6 I fired were the Federal 44 special loads. I'll fire some more of those, maybe a Magnum. But so I'm shooting some of my hand loads and just making sure they work. Okay, let's shoot a couple more. How about, let's see if they'll penetrate a 2-liter. I'm going to open the cylinder and just kind of double check. I could take them out even, but just want to make sure that they all look good. Yeah, not moving. Not moving on me. Okay. All right. So let's fire another one or two. That should be a click. Yeah. All right. It's a nice revolver. Now in 44 Special, you shouldn't have a lot of that, okay, to begin with. But then again, it depends on how hard you crimp the bullet. I don't like to, when I'm loading, some of you that hand load know exactly what I'm talking about, just revolver rounds. As you put the powder in, at that step, you bell the mouth of the case just a little bit to receive the new bullet, right? Because you resize the case first. This one's, see, it's been expanded a little bit. So the first step, resizes it, goes down inside, punches out the primer, and kind of squeezes it back down a little bit, okay, to proper size. Then the next stage is where the powder goes in, and also it kind of bells. You got this like funnel goes down there, and it bells the mouth just a little bit, so you can set. I don't have the bullet, of course. So I run out there and find one, so it'll go in, okay, easily, but not too much. You don't want like a trombone or a trumpet. I've done that by mistake sometimes. You get the wrong case, a long case. Like if I put a 44 Magnum case, for example, it happened this morning on my press. It gets in there by mistake, and I don't see it or sense it. Then it's longer, and so guess what? It really bells it out like a funnel, and it basically ruins it. I throw it away, but. So, and then when you seat the bullet, what was I going to say? Yeah. And then also when I seat the bullet and run it down the next station and the last station, seats it, squeeze it in, it's kind of at the top, which you don't have so much with most semi-auto cases, cartridges you're loading. But this actually crimps the mouth of that against the lead into that crimping groove a little bit. My point I'm getting to is I don't want that to be too tight either. It's hard on the brass. The more you bell it when you're charging, and then the more harder you crimp it, it wears out the brass a little quicker and all that kind of thing. And 44 Special, so I'm not doing some really hard crimp. And when I say hard, I kind of mean hard, because your press on that last, you're pushing pretty hard. You're really pinching that brass against that bullet into that crimp. Because some rounds you do need to pinch it in there and really squeeze it in there, pinch it hard, okay? Like a 454 Castle and the 44 mag maybe. Depends on also the gun you're firing it in. My big old 8.3/8 inch Model 29 or the big Ruger Red Hawk I have, they're not going to jump back as quick, right? They're not going to jump back under recoil quite as violently. And so actually there's not as much force on that bullet to stay where it is. You're basically kind of, the bullet doesn't even move, it just stays where it is. The gun cartridge is moving away from it. Am I confusing anybody on that? Okay. You people who don't shoot don't know what I'm talking about. Your bullet's heavy. Okay, that's part of the issue. It's a heavy piece of lead. You're just seeing a piece of the bullet. It goes down in there pretty far. So it's a heavy chunk of lead. And so you're pulling that away really quick. I don't know what would be an example. You know, like if I had a heavy baseball made of lead in my hand or something, you know, and I move my hand like that, okay, it's going to move with me. But if someone grabs my arm and as quick as they possibly could, they punch my arm backwards, well, that lead is so heavy, it's going to want to kind of stay there. It's going to want to come out of my hand, and it just wants to stay there because what's holding it is moving away from it. That's the force. No charge for that. Can I shoot a couple more? All right, the 44 Special is such a sweet round. Sweet. Don't the anti-gunners love that kind of lingo? When we say we love a firearm, we want to fondle a firearm, or it's a sweet round or a sweet firearm. That just I'm sure they just want to go ballistic when they hear that. All right, let's see if a hand load will hit the gong. Any more? No. Okay. Y'all are going to have to tell me where I am holding wrong, incorrectly. All right, here we go again. I haven't shot this for a while, or with these loads. So, let's learn together. I didn't see anything hitting the leaves. I don't know if you did. So that tells me they must be going over or left, right. Okay, so I'm going to hold down a little more. My sight keeps looking funny to me. That's just the cross light on it. I guess the sun coming in. I saw that one. There we go. Oh yeah, I think I figured out where to hold. Yep, I figured out where to hold. I got one left. About, I don't know, low, put it that way. I started to say about a foot low. Well, depends on how you're measuring that, right? I'm holding just below the gong, 6 o'clock hold, below 6 o'clock hold, okay? That's where I need to be holding. And it kind of depends on how you measure it. You know, now if you're talking, let's say I'm holding if I say a foot low below the bottom of the gong, well, what is that? Does that mean I dig a hole into the dirt a foot down and that's where I'm holding? Or, you know, the ground is like right there. Does that mean a foot out into the leaves, you know, from the gong, which is really not as far down, you know, all that kind of stuff. Again, I'm just getting so scientific with you folks. Sorry about that. Yeah, sweet to shoot, even out of this firearm, which is not all that heavy because it's a 3-inch barrel, you know, L frame. Really sweet out of that 4-inch 29. So I hope you enjoyed the knife video, by the way. Beautiful knives. Many of you have a thing about knives, I'm sure. I've always had a fondness for fixed blade bowie knives, more so than pocket knives. I think that's one thing that made it easier for me. Oh, it's right here. Made it easier for me to transition to an ugly knife like that. I carried stainless steel Spyderco for a long time. Then I went to this. I know back in the 70s and the 80s, I carried a bone handle, stag handle, pocket knife. It's some pretty nice ones. A hen and rooster. What else? But they're just neat because of the bone handle or the stag and everything. But they were two-hand operations to open them up and mess with them, which is not a big deal usually. But once you go to a one-hand operation, you'll never go back. It's just way too practical. The same reason hardly anybody is driving a stick shift car anymore. Now, I mean, they're fun. I drove one all through the 70s and 80s, but it's just that simple. So, as I said in the video, I don't have a use a lot of times for just like a sheath, a hunting knife, like a 3-4 inch blade, 5-inch blade. There's some beautiful hunting knives like that. I've got one that Jimmy Lyle you saw, and like the standard buck knife. I don't know what that thing is called. It's a classic. The whole knife is about that long. Just a really nice sheath knife. Those kinds of knives. I don't really have a lot of use for those. You could do a little hacking with that, I guess, but I need a bigger knife because that's, like I said in the video, I use it for chopping limbs and trimming trails and things like that. Or I should pull it out of my pocket to cut cardboard or something like that. Those are my two uses for knives. I don't hunt or need to skin an animal or anything, so that's what I need. But those big knives have always been a weakness. I have a lot of weaknesses, as I say in the video. Firearms and beautiful knives, not so beautiful knives if they're made the way I like them, and they're really practical and useful. So hope you enjoyed that video. It was a little change. I didn't do a lot of shooting in that video. I apologize. And I do have my, speaking of the video, the other video this week I posted was the Shield Plus versus the SIG P365 XL that looks a lot like this, right? That I carry in my pocket a lot. And I've been shooting it some, and I thought today I might, shoot it some too. I brought some carry ammo out here. That'll shoot a lot of carry ammo, so I was going to shoot my carry ammo and maybe a couple of mags. I don't know. Let's put that back in and shoot it. Why not? Say I'm going to do it. Let's just do it. Because of that light strike. And I've been shooting it since that video. The video is, I don't know, a month or so old, and I've been shooting it, and I think I shot it in Sunday video again. So every now and then I just shoot the thing, and because I just want to make sure that was a round, a hard primer or something in it. It was range ammo, or they got a piece of brass stuck in it. Some weird things can happen, and who knows? Just a piece of brass in the chamber, or just things can happen like that, and that might be indiscernible. You can't, that little piece of brass that kind of prevented it from going into battery as well, or something that was almost there, and then it flushes out as you shoot it. There's just no real evidence of what happened. I hate it when that happens. There's no evidence. When there's a problem, I love to know what it is. Anyway, I thought I'd shoot that a few times. So I'm out here for fun, but I'm out here with a little bit of purpose, trying out my special rounds and maybe some magnums. I don't know. What else am I going to talk about? Gosh. I know. John and I were watching some westerns over the holidays. It dawned on me. It's something we talk about occasionally. We all shooters do, don't we? Is the movies and the cowboy movies, or whatever movie it is where there are firearms in it. and how they get it wrong. We always love to make fun of them. Of course, making a movie is a different proposition. They're not gun people. A lot of them have a gun person, though, on staff or as a consultant, and they should not make, I think, major errors. Little, I'm talking about in information. They're using the wrong firearm, that kind of thing. I'm not talking about like safety issues really, but there's so many things. Oh man, so many firearms issues are just inexcusable mistakes. And the westerns, of course, I noticed them. And the one that we were watching, one of our favorite movies or series, what are you going to call it, mini-series, I guess, the Sackets. If you haven't seen that, it's definitely worth your time. Wow. A cast of classic cowboy actors, Jack Elam, Ben Johnson, of course, Tom Selleck, and it's just great right on through. And that thing's been out for like 30 years or something now, I guess, but it's great. Sam Elliott, and it's kind of in the 1870s, you think, because they start out, there's a lot of 1873 rifle action. Okay, they're definitely 1873 lever guns, no question about that. A couple of brothers have them. They're shooting them close up shots and everything, so it's great. So we were just talking, we're trying to, because there's also some percussion pistols, look like maybe a couple of conversion percussion pistols, that kind of thing. So we were assuming, okay, this is probably like mid-1870s, because they talked about the Civil War, and they'd come back in the Civil War, tell Sackett had been gone, for 10 years, they said, or something. He hadn't been back since the war, so you don't know the exact year. So we're thinking of all the 1873, and there were some people carrying Colt single action armies, so we're talking mid-70s at least. Well, then don't you know it, and somewhere along the way, I think it's when Tom Selleck is getting married? I don't know. Anyway, someone announces that it is 1869. 1869. And I thought, we had forgotten about that. And I thought, oh no, we both just shook our heads. Okay, that wipes out that one date. And it didn't, why did they have to say it's 1869? It didn't have to be 1869, I don't think, for any of the other things going on there. But when they said it's 1869, that rendered so many of the firearms used throughout that series anachronisms. They're just wrong. But anyways, it's always funny when the westerns do that. If they could just get the basics and figure out, okay, what's the setting going to be for this whoever the script writer is, right? What is the script? I'll tell you what gets them in trouble is that Civil War. If they try to work in the Civil War, they want to work in that. Maybe they're just, boy, there's some horrible examples of this in westerns where the Civil War has just ended and they're all coming home or something, or they talk right from the get-go. It's like 1 year after the war, 2 year, whatever. Well, I especially start watching for the firearms they're carrying, the cartridges and everything after they've made that clear. Well, then there's some horrible examples of people, gun belts full of belts and Colt peacemakers and kinds of lever guns that weren't around at that time, all that kind of thing. So they just butchered it totally by doing that. If they could just forget about the Civil War in the script, or it's okay to allude to that, but make it clear it's the 1870s now or 1880s or whatever the heck it is, because it's so simple. If I were writing a cowboy script, I don't know, make it late 1870s or something, or 1880 would be good. That way, by then, the Colt Peacemaker was chambered in, the 4440 and those other cartridges. You could have all that if you want. You got 1873, 1876 Winchester if you wanted. You just got all those cool cowboy guns. And you still have someone with a Spencer rifle. It doesn't matter, because it was out, or a Henry rifle. It's when you're going backwards is when you get in trouble. When you claim it's 1869 and you got somebody with an 1873 rifle. So, and I think there was actually 1894 Winchester in there too. But one reason we noticed it, we were talking about how this is so cool. I'd forgotten they actually had 1873 rifles, because you don't see this very often, as I've mentioned, in the westerns. Especially in older westerns, and those were real original 1873s. They were flashing around there. They weren't like Uberti replicas either. So we were impressed by all that until they said it was 1869. And then I was watching after this week from time. I think they're running. Was it Wanted Dead or Alive with Steve McQueen? And I'm reminded there too in the opening. Of course, they pick guns that are cool, sexy looking firearms. That's don't blame them. It's cool. We like that. But that series, which is a pretty good series, I've always liked Steve McQueen. But boy, now you may disagree. You may have one of these mare's legs or replica of that firearm he carries. But boy, those things are the most awkward firearm on the planet to shoot, to aim, to work the lever. I mean, they are horrible. They are horrible. To operate. I'd rather have an LCP Ruger and 22 long rifle than one of those and have to manipulate that thing. But it's cool looking, and he's got that holster, and it hooks in and all this kind of stuff. It's Hollywood, and it's great. I loved it growing up. I still like that show. I can get over that. It's willing suspension of disbelief. But beyond that, it is an 1892 Winchester that's cut down. Steve McQueen is carrying, make it into a pistol. And, it was chambered in basically like the 1873 rifle in pistol caliber stuff, he's got a belt full of what? 45-70 rounds. Yep, they're very clearly 45-70 or 45-90. I think they're 45-70 rounds. Big bullets, You couldn't get one of those into that gun with a shoehorn, with a sledgehammer, right? But again, it looks cool. It does. And I mean, think about all the westerns in the movies that you share. Gosh, it's an unlimited number of them, and we forgive them. I tell you, if it's a good western, there's so few of those made these days. I'll overlook it. I'll point it out. I'll make fun of it, but wish they'd do better. But it's still, there's just no excuse for some of it, really. If it's something that's really borderline that only some hardcore gun nut's going to see, that's one thing. But gosh, some of it's just so clear cut historically, they're totally inaccurate. That somebody could have caught that in a script. The other thing is maybe they don't care. Maybe they even know it. But again, I still conjecture that some of the 1892 and 1894 Winchester use, which is widespread in all the westerns, the older westerns especially, with something maybe to do about the cost, the ease of getting them, or they were converted to blank guns more easily, or the blanks they used were of I don't know. They worked better in those guns, or there was something about the 1873s, because they were around. I think it was made for 50 years. It's a little heavier gun in a lot of cases, but I still don't know. Maybe you do if you've worked in a studio like that. Why the 1873 was virtually ignored in the westerns, the old westerns. And later, more modern ones, you'll see the replicas of the 1873 used, like maybe a Silverado or a Tombstone or some of those kinds of movies, and other B-grade, C-grade, D-grade movies that show up on Netflix. So, but anyway, always interesting to see that. Can I shoot again? I'll tell you what, I've got my, yeah, I'm gonna load this. Is it okay if I break action to the 44 Special and shoot one more mag of, this is some weird ammo. Oh man, I don't know what that is. Yeah, got a WI. I didn't know I had any of that when I put it in the wrong box. It's something can go out weird. I'll just shoot it anyway. If I have any trouble, I'll blame it on the Brand X. Where's my magazine? What did I do with my? Oh, there it is. This is really old stuff. Been in the shed, I think. I don't normally keep a lot of stuff in the shed or barn, but yeah, I want to shoot this thing enough to feel good about it after that misfire. I don't like a misfire. Not in a carry gun. If it's in this 44 Special, maybe. You know, and even that I don't like, because I've carried that 696. It's a nice carry gun. You never know. And there's a HST in the mix, so we got a little bit of a mix here. Let's see, this stuff will sheet. All right. Yep, okay. Still going. One malfunction. Still bugs me. That one malfunction. I tell you, okay, what do I know? Anything? Gosh, do I have any advice for young people? Probably not. Oh, I know something. Yeah, I wrote down a quote from Lou Holt I ran across in some old notes. And this line was, if you didn't show up, who would miss you and why? I might have used that on y'all before. If you didn't show up for work or school or family, whatever, if you didn't show up, who would miss you? And would anybody miss you? And why would they miss you? Or why would they not miss you? You know, I think that's a good question for all of us to ask ourselves. You know, are we doing anything worthwhile? You know, for other people, we're doing anything worthwhile, period. Do we just cause trouble? Do we just cause I don't know, aggravation for people, or confrontation, you know, whatever it might be? Are people glad to see you when you show up, or they're sorry to see you when you show up? You know, well, you might be an IRS agent and they're sorry to see you, or barring something like that. I mean, so just something to ask ourselves: what are we doing? What effect are we having on other people? And sometimes we don't know. We don't really know. That's the thing. Well, you might wonder, I might wonder, why people don't want to talk to you or me, or something. You know, we just say there's something wrong with them. Well, maybe it's us. Maybe it's me. Maybe it's not them. We don't know. We just don't. We don't know sometimes the vibes we give off, and we don't mean to maybe give off negative vibes, and we do. Maybe we don't realize that we really give off positive vibes, and we do. I don't know, it can work all kinds of ways, can it? We have to kind of check ourselves, I guess, that we just don't know. Maybe we're doing something really worthwhile, but we don't even think we are. Maybe we think we're doing something really worthwhile, and we're being really good for people around us, but we're not at all. I don't know. You know, just things to think about. It's that line from, was it Sylvia Plath? I might have thrown that at you before in a Deep Woods Thought. A poem she wrote. I used this in class. I always thought it was great. It speaks to a major point about literature and writing and all that. Anyway, but to be so simple. Let's see. Two girls discover the secret of life in a sudden line of poetry. I, who wrote the line, don't know the secret. You know, and I always thought that was great. You might not, but it just illustrates from a literary standpoint, of course, or from any kind of creative standpoint. You know, people get things from like your writing or your exposure to you, your influence, that you don't realize maybe. You know, it could be negative, it could be positive. You don't know where they get that. Why did they think you're so negative? You don't mean to be negative. You don't even realize you're negative. Yeah. Or it could be the opposite. They might get a lot from you and always be glad to see you. You don't even know why. You don't understand it. You know, it could work both ways. So we have to check ourselves, and I guess I'm mainly targeting folks that maybe young people. If you don't just I don't know, maybe you're a slacker. Put it that way. And you know you're a slacker. Well, start working your way out of slackerdom. Working your way out of slackerdom. You know, maybe you don't realize you're such a slacker. Work on that. And maybe you'll get a better reaction from people. Maybe you'll become a little more successful. At least you'll get on the road to being a little more successful in life, whether it's financially or just with friends, romance, or whatever. And, so check yourself. Think about what you contribute to the world. And it doesn't have to be some tremendous contribution to mankind. It might just be you need to contribute a little bit more to the conversation around the dinner table or the dorm room or wherever. You know, are you nice to people? Do you offer anything? Do you have a personality at all? You know. So anyway, if that means anything, which it probably doesn't. I did hear a little politics here. I did hear a scary comment. This has been about a week ago, I guess. I think it was with everything going on in New York, I think it was the outgoing mayor. It wasn't the new mayor. I think it was de Blasio said. Don't quote me, I'm pretty sure he said, but he said it was some kind of shutdown mandate justifying all this stuff. He said, at the end of the day, my job is to protect people. Yeah, at the end of the day, my job is to protect people. Yep, I guess it is. But boy, we have to be careful, don't we? Because what's it? The road to hell is paved with good intentions. Is that the way the quote goes? Yeah. Because man, you just don't know. And I found another quote on someone left on Facebook. I loved it, and it ties right into that. And it's by C.S. Lewis. Of all tyrannies, a tyranny, you know what tyranny is, young people, right? Okay, totalitarianism, okay, dictatorship, whatever, okay. Of all tyrannies, a tyranny sincerely exercised for the good of its victims, may be the most oppressive, the most oppressive. Those who torment us for our own good will torment us without end, for they do so with the approval of their own conscience. They know they're doing right. Okay? They've got the approval of their own conscience. They are justified in their own mind to oppress people for their own good. You know, that's scary stuff sometimes. Can be very scary because people think they're doing this for your own good, and they are convinced of it. And so again, there's no, they have no problems, no quandary, no dilemmas. You know, they're completely clear-minded about it. You know, they just want to help you. I just want to help you. Okay. I want everybody to turn in their cars tomorrow. I just want to help you, keep you from getting killed on the road, right? So anyway, just something to think about, right? Something to think about. Just don't think too hard because it can hurt. It can hurt. And I'm already going too long, aren't I? Let me shoot this thing some more, okay? Oh, let me make sure I'm checking my bullets here too. Let's pop that cowboy. Let's not. Like I said, let's pop that cowboy. I didn't say which round I was going to pop him with. Sometimes I like to just fire a warm-up round, you know, into the air. All right, I guess we're good. Let's fire those too. All right, this is a double action, boys and girls. If you don't know that, you can fire it by pulling the hammer like that, gives it a hair trigger, or you can just cock it like that. Look how dirty it gets. Yeah. Sometimes my hand loads are a little bit like black powder, but not quite, not quite. So, I don't know, nothing else important probably, as if anything is, that I would talk about. But I, again, want to thank you for showing up. Okay, and again, it's January, so who knows what the weather will bring. Like I said, I will try to give you some shooting. Okay, maybe not, maybe not. It may just be a Sunday morning and I'm yakking at you from the living room or the reloading room, and but like I said, I'll try to post a shooting video or some kind of shooting segment, there, just so you can hear a little gunfire. Okay, at least on that same day, maybe even in the video. I don't know, I'll paste it on the end or something. But I'd hate for you to go Sunday morning without hearing gunfire, right? Because it's a sweet sound. It really is. It's a sweet sound to hear, not only Sunday morning, any morning. I think, I really do. And I enjoy it. I think I'll just not get this one dirty now. I accomplished what I wanted to. With that, I think it's all working fine. I didn't shoot much of the Federal, but that's okay. I'll shoot it. I just wanted to try that stuff out before I load more. I have told you that I uncovered some reloading materials around here. I was glad to do that. I've got a little heater down. It doesn't do any good. But I'm really glad I pulled some of you that hand load or thinking about it. Maybe can appreciate this. I finally got the barn cleaned up, or that reloading room, to where I got my press uncovered and everything. And I thought, I think maybe I'll load up some 45 Colt, because I've told you all this, that just get some lead bullets and, make sure I've got enough of those to sprinkle in, with the Federal ammo and everything. Because I've got some, and I think I got some primers, and I'm pretty sure I got a little powder and all that. Well, I got all that together and messed around, and I actually, without having to buy, I bought some bullets, lead bullets, just the bullet heads on, what was that, 4570? I don't know. But I scraped enough stuff together that I have been able to hand load some 45 Colt and a fair amount of that, and some 44 Magnum and 4570, and now I'm doing some 44 Special, and had just enough powder to stick with my old loads and all of those. And gosh, it had been so long since I'd loaded any. I broke a couple things on the press. I broke part of the powder measure, my Dillon, just a couple days ago. Popped a piece of plastic. I just went to another. I've been cannibalizing some of my Dillon stuff, and so it's been fun. I've had to readjust and use the same dies I don't normally use to readjust or powder measures, and I hadn't done it in so long, because I'm really adamant, anal, about getting a powder measure set, figuring out what load I want, as I've discussed before, and the die set right, and it just never changed them. Really, I will buy another powder measure, another die set before I change them. Once I get them all set and seating the bullet exactly the way I want, the depth and everything. And but I had to do some of that, and I managed to do it, and it's good relearning experience for me. So reloading, if you're thinking about getting into it, it's not all that hard. But then again, it's not something you want to just jump into without thinking, right? Knock on wood. I almost don't want to say it out loud, but I've never had double charge, but I'll say it out loud, knock on wood, really hard. If you pay attention to what you're doing, I've loaded so many thousands of rounds, probably hundreds of thousands, But take your time, go about it slowly, learning the learning process, and pick a powder that works, and something that works, and then stick with it. Find a bullet that works for what you're going to do, whether it's a cast bullet or it's a jacketed bullet, whatever you're doing. Now I'm talking mostly about like volume kind of hand loading, like handguns, where you're going to shoot pretty much. If you're loading for a rifle round for hunting because you want to get use a different bullet than is available or something like that, and you just need about 20 every 2 or 3 years, or something like that. That's a little different. I set up to load, like hundreds or thousands, when I set up to load, and maybe for the next 30 years, I don't want to change it. So you want to kind of do some study and figure out what works. And there's probably, like for 44 Special or Magnum or 45 Colt, there's any number of powders that are suitable. Some are better than others, whatever that means. Maybe they're a little dirtier, they burn a little dirtier, or whatever. Maybe it doesn't take as much of some powders as it does others, and some powders would be a little less expensive per round, or whatever it might be. But pick one that's universally considered to be pretty good, and you'll be fine. But just be very careful, take your time, don't ever get in a hurry, just like almost everything involving firearms. I always like to think about and tell people, advise people, just go into slow motion, when you're messing with a firearm a lot of times. Just go slow with it. As I think I've shared when I was a range officer in USPSA, it used to bother me. I don't care how experienced the shooter was, whether he was a master class shooter or what. There would always be somebody in the match that they would, you know how it is when you're a range officer. You say when they finish the stage, they fire the last shot. Okay, you say shooter finished or whatever. I've forgotten the command now. Show clear, and you show the range officer. And they're supposed to do things on command. Show clear, they show clear. And I was like a robot when the range officer says, okay, show clear, and I'd make sure he'd see it, and I wouldn't do anything until she gave me another command. Just hold it like that, show, and then say reholster. And then I would reholster slowly, put it in my holster. There's always these guys that it's like, show clear. It's like, whoa, what are you doing? You got a speed reholstering competition going on here or something? I'd like to, just no need to do anything too quick. Now I know when you're bringing it out to shoot, that's the whole objective, be quick. But there's no award for a tenth of a second reholstering, that kind of thing. So, but anyway, just take your time and be ready to waste brass, waste primers, powder, whatever, as you get set up. I do that every time I set up for a new reloader. When I change something very significantly, I'll run one around if it's a progressive reloader like a Dillon 550 or something, and I'll run it up and get it sized, make sure the size or die is coming down far enough, and get that all adjusted, and everything. And then the primers are going in, and take it around, and the next stage to get the powder in and make sure it's belling the mouth just perfectly. Maybe I ruin one, because adjusting them is kind of a pain. Maybe I go down too far, it's a little too far, and I'm going to toss that one away. But then I adjust it. I may waste one or two cases, that's about it. And then I'll measure the powder, make sure it's dropping the right amount, get that just right, and then I'll drop it, like 2 or 3 times and weigh it and make sure it's all okay. It's belling the mouth of the case just right, no doubt about it. And then go to the next one and make sure it's seating it the proper depth and everything. So anyway, take your time with it. If you lose a little powder in the process, you have to throw a bullet or two away, so be it. Just relax, enjoy it, and get it set, because you won't waste much. Okay, it's not a major crime or felony if you end up destroying a piece of brass or two, or waste a primer or two. It's okay. Just get it right. Take your time, and and go with it. And then the next biggest thing is monitor your powder. Make sure you get powder in the case as you go through. I love powders. The amount now sometimes you don't do it. It doesn't make sense for the cartridge, but I've always, in most of the cases, I do use a powder where if you did double charge it for some reason, which shouldn't happen, but if you did, it would be, wow, really noticeable. As you set the bullet on there, or even as you move it or you see it, or you start to set the bullet on there, you see, whoa, I can see the powder up on the top of that case. Because some things I load, like with these, there's not much powder. It's just down here. So if I doubled it, it's up here, and I'm gonna really see it easily. Whoa, I see powder. That's not right, because I shouldn't even see the powder from the angle I'm looking at. okay? Sometimes I'll look over and make sure there is powder, but it's all working. But if I see powder, or you see, it's nice if you're loading with a charge of powder, where if you put twice what there should be in there, it will jump out at you, or be spilling out of the case. When I load 2400 powder, that's the way it is, because it's more of a bulk. And so it's going to run out of the case, or it's going to be up to the very brim or something. So like, no way you're going to double charge unless you just completely lost your mind, okay? And I will double charge a case in that process I was talking about, where you're getting the powder charges right. I will sometimes just run it up again just to see what it looks like with 2 charges of powder in it, how high it comes up in the case, if it's really easy to see, and that kind of thing. So just to see what, then I of course dump it back into the hopper. Don't put a bullet on it, right? Not that dumb. And sometimes I'll load 2 bullets on it to see what that looks like. No, that was a joke. And you might wonder, just for liability reasons, I don't talk about hand loading much. I don't, I don't talk about powders and loads or any of that kind of thing. I don't think YouTube even wants us to demonstrate reloading anymore. I think those get certainly demonetized, I guess, maybe taken down. I don't know, there might even be strikes involved. I don't know. But but I never have. I did some long time ago, kind of showing the basics of how to get into it, but I haven't really done anything in it. But let somebody else do that, figure out a way to do it. There's liability involved, boy, big time. I'm not going to start talking about that and loads and all that. So you just need to study it, and not take somebody else's word for a lot of that. Anyway, loads, everybody's got a perfect load or a better load. The manuals are out there, the data is out there, and you can figure that out on your own. You really need to figure it out on your own, just so you'll, you need to be a student of it to some extent. So I've talked about so many things that are irrelevant, haven't I? I appreciate y'all coming around, and like I said, I hope to see you next week. I hope it's not too cold, and if it is, I'll be toasty warm in my reloading room, yakking at you about something, okay? I really appreciate y'all coming around, and tune in. There'll be another video or 2 or 3 this week, as there are every week. Life is good.